Here's why hair salon services are getting so expensive. And no, it's not just because of inflation. At the end of this, I'm going to go over how to find quality salon services that fit within your beauty budget. First, I want to talk about traditional coloring services versus modern coloring services. So back when I first started doing hair about 100 years ago, in the early 2000s, I was assisting my boss at the time who would double and triple book every half hour on the half hour, whether it was a haircut, a coloring cut, a highlighting cut, whatever it was, he'd book every half an hour. So he'd be double and triple booking his clients, which is fine. That's totally normal. That's how he made his money. And that's how a lot of stylists made their money. That's how a lot of stylists still make their money. But the thing is, these were like commodity traditional services. A color and cut was just that. You'd slap the color on their roots, let them process for half an hour. There was a set processing time. They could go and take other clients in between. A traditional highlight was just that, like a T section, like spaced half inch apart. You'd slap those highlights on that person's head, let them process. There was set processing time between each client, and these traditional services allowed a stylist to double and triple book efficiently. Thus, the type of pricing that many of us who have been around for a while have come to know and expect. Now let's talk about modern services. Modern blonding service. Let's use that as an example. Teasy lights, money piece, fruit melts, color melts, tip outs, platinum carded areas, whatever it is, you name it. There's like a new technique that comes out like every freaking day. It's a lot to keep up on all these techniques. These did not exist during the era where I was helping my boss juggle his 3 clients at once. Most stylists don't double book those services. I'm not going to speak for everyone because I know there's always someone in the comments being like, oh, I double book those services. But I'm saying for most stylists do not feel comfortable double booking a modern blonding service because of the intricacies in that service. There's not a lot of processing time. There's a lot of labor involved, a whole lot more labor than a classic service. So therefore, now instead of doing 3 clients in a matter of 3.5 to 4 hours, they are giving you 100% of their undivided attention, and that in itself is a luxury. So therefore, it's more expensive. Okay, but hear me out. Even though the initial visit for a modern blonding service is much higher than that of a regular highlight service, that modern blonding service is going to last you a whole lot longer, thus saving you money in the long run. A classic highlight typically will come in like every 6 to 8 weeks. A modern blonding service, maybe twice a year. Modern blonding service, although expensive upfront, they are built to last. Most of the stylists that I know still offer classic services, root retouches, regular, like classic, basic, traditional highlight. Those services still exist, but the thing is, consumer behavior has changed, and most clients that walk in through our doors aren't bringing in goal pictures that involve classic services. So a lot of the requests that we're getting as stylists are for end results that require that like 100% attention and dedication and the extra product and the extra time. And, you know, I touched on inflation for a second, but just to go back to inflation, I don't like bringing up inflation because it's not the whole reason, right? Inflation is a piece of it. It has affected everything, our bills, our groceries, eggs are like $1 million now. Inflation is the reason why some traditional services have gone up, but it's not the reason why a modern blonding service is like 4 times as expensive as a classic highlight. That's not the reason why. So what are some pointers? Like as a client, you're looking to get your hair done. What are some pointers as far as like making sure that your salon services fall within your budget and communicating with your stylist? Number 1, I would highly recommend booking a consultation. Most salons now that do modern services require consultations because every individual is going to be different. For your friend, it might take a stylist 3 hours to get them from A to B. For you, maybe you're at a different starting point, you have different hair, it might take 4 hours. So it's really important that a stylist knows exactly how much time to book you out for. A lot of modern services are very individualized to your unique needs, right? It's not as easy as slapping on a color on your roots and letting you process under the dryer. I respect a client's budget. Here are 5 tips on how to get quality salon services that fit with budget. Number 1, choose a less expensive result. And what I mean by that is that there are certain things that would generally cost more and certain things that would generally cost less. So for example, a warmer or darker result will usually cost less than a lighter or cooler / ashier, icier result. It takes a lot less time. Again, I'm speaking in general. It takes a lot less time to get someone to like a warm caramel or a copper or a red, and to bring someone darker to like just deposit, make them go from blonde to brunette. It takes a lot less time to do that than the other way around. Going from brunette to blonde takes a lot of time, therefore costs a lot of money. Making someone ashy or icy will normally cost more money because it takes longer and it takes a little more attention and detail to bring someone to that light color that can be toned to is something that's ashy. Number 2, ask your stylist if it's possible to break their service up into smaller little bite-sized services. Maybe you don't want to or can't afford to spend 6 hours in your stylist chair that day. Be like, hey, is it possible for me to do this in sessions? Number 3, and this one I feel like people are always afraid to do, but I'm going to say it, okay? Number 3 would be to ask your stylist for a referral to a lower price stylist, like someone who's building their clientele. Any reputable, confident stylist is not going to be offended that you're asking them for a recommendation for someone else because they can't afford their prices anymore. I've done it. I know a lot of stylists who have done it. I'm more than happy to make referrals to someone who's building, someone who I trust. So if you have a stylist that you trust their judgment, and you have different needs now for your budget, it is okay to ask your stylist if there's anyone else that they would recommend at a lower price point. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to leave your stylist, maybe ask your stylist for more affordable service options. For example, maybe you've always been a packed in like blonde AF highlight, right? Super packed in. It takes them forever to pack all those foils in. Maybe instead of doing that, you could go blonde, meaning you would go longer between your appointments. Your stylist wouldn't pack the highlights in as much. It would be a little more lived in, and it would cost a little less. So there are always options. And then lastly, if you're on a really tight budget, be a model somewhere. There are a lot of salons, my salon included, who have associates on the team who are licensed stylists who are training and taking models. And they generally take models at a very cost-effective rate, and sometimes it's even free. Of course, the downside is like, it might take them a little bit longer, but they're surrounded by people mentoring them. And that's a great way to get a quality salon service at a more cost-effective rate. Listen, I don't like the phrase getting your hair done as a luxury. I've seen that thrown around a lot. There are luxury services, but getting your hair done, self-care, basic grooming, I do not believe that's a luxury. That is something that people need. And so that's why, regardless of what your budget looks like, whether it's up here, in the middle, down here, whatever, getting your hair done, getting salon services should be accessible. There are options for everyone. If you are a model at a salon, if you're a model at my salon, like these are accessible, really great quality salon services, and you're also helping someone gain experience. It is a win-win. That being said, if what you're looking for is a 5-hour modern blonding service done by a very experienced, in-demand stylist, that's a luxury. I'm also not mad at box color. I have plenty of clients who like color their hair at home. I'm not mad at that. I have a lot of haircut clients who just like do their own regrowth at home. I don't care. If it works for them, it works for them. There's nothing wrong with it. That's all I got.